thank you for clicking on this video. And if you're hearing my voice right now, it means you are a Pump Take fan and hopefully a subscriber. And if you're not a subscriber, please become a subscriber. That'd be wonderful. Welcome to the Pump Take Show. Today we're going to be talking about the Detroit Pistons. I think they had an impressive draft night, and there's been some big things happening with them lately. So Christian Wood, their power forward center from last season, has decided to walk away. Also, they drafted Killian Hayes this year. They traded Luke Kennard. They picked up Jeremy Grant and also Josh Jackson. So a lot of moves for the Pistons. Of course, they're rebuilding. And what do you guys think about the Detroit Pistons lately?
I really like what the Pistons have done so far this offseason. The main thing that I really like what they've done is they realized that kind of like what they were doing was not working. And they really just made moves to, one, get younger, and which they obviously were very successful in doing. I think they had a fantastic draft. But I also think that these moves kind of like, it didn't make them less competitive in the East. And it kind of changed up the rendition of like whatever Pistons team we've been seeing go out there. And I think that they could still surprise some people and win some games. So I like what the Pistons are doing.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I think they hit the blow it up button at the right time because obviously, I think with the Derrick Rose thing and all their kind of older guys they were really just floating to be competitive because, it's a really small market team. And so you need to try and do that. But I think when you hit the blow it up button, you've done what they've done in getting, 3 draft picks in the first round this year. Also, obviously Christian Wood leaving is unfortunate because he's a young player, but, good riddance. He's not part of your long-term plan, right? You drafted a power forward this year, Saddiq Bey, in the draft. And so, the Pistons got younger, as you said, Kale, I agree with you. And they're continuing to remain competitive. Maybe not, play like a high seed playoff team, obviously, but there's no reason why the Pistons couldn't do everything they can to push for an 8th seed, considering all the health goes their way and Killian Hayes works out to be the scorer that he's, was drafted to be. And Jeremy Grant comes in and does what Jeremy Grant does, and that's provide good defense and some okay scoring.
Yeah.
I really liked the Pistons draft day, but I wasn't as big on their free agency moves. They seem to have a bit of a backlog now at center, even though they lost Christian Wood. They've got Plumlee now, Dedmon, Okafor, Tony Bradley, and Isaiah Stewart. That's 5 guys. It almost seems like it seemed like almost all of their moves were kind of centered around that 5 position. And I don't really understand what they were kind of going for especially with the signing of like Jahlil Okafor. It just kind of baffled me a little bit. I don't hate the moves necessarily, but I don't really understand what their thinking was in terms of that being their main focus. And I get that they have a few losses at that position, but it seems like they were trying to make up for the losses of obviously of Drummond the year before, and with a bunch of different guys that kind of all bring something smaller to the table. And I don't know if that's the greatest strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't know they had 5 centers on the roster. And maybe what they're trying to do there is they're trying to find where their big man kind of fits and are, because, they drafted a guy in the first round this year. You assume they're going to want to use him. They also have Blake Griffin at power forward. But then are you going to start a rookie center all year? Are you going to – go ahead, Kel.
That's kind of what I think with why they've accumulated all these centers, and it's why I don't necessarily hate it. A guy like Isaiah Stewart and just bigs in general, they can often struggle coming into the NBA, moving from college to NBA level competition, because guys are just much bigger and much more talented. So I think by getting guys like Mason Plumlee, Jahlil Okafor, Dwayne Dedmon, they're kind of like they're planning in advance if Isaiah Stewart is not NBA ready, that they have a multitude of bigs already within their organization and that they can kind of slot in just based on who's working out and who isn't. So I understand it looks a little bit silly for them to be collecting all of these centers, and people are going to make jokes about it. But I think that if they're planning on starting Isaiah Stewart, I don't think having all of those guys for cheap in your organization is necessarily a bad idea.
And the other thing too is that they didn't draft Isaiah Simmons to be what Karl Anthony Towns is to the Timberwolves. Obviously, that's a vast comparison, but they're going to be running a lot of their scoring through their point guards and Blake Griffin. And so having big men that are kind of just tall and can just, provide spacing and work in the pick and roll and stuff like that. Hopefully Isaiah Simmons can do that. But I think I agree kind of with both of you that, big men with Kale first, because big men, obviously, like, they're finding them is really hard to do. So you kind of got to have a backup plan of just like a plug-in guy that can kind of work in the offense and not going to like slow anything down. But at the same time, I agree with Lucas. It looks silly to have, that many big men all lined up there because it's like, what is your plan? But I think what their plan is to figure out their plan before they plan their big man situation, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just kind of, figure it out as they go. They're playing it by ear and by eye, of course. And so, I mean, I think the Pistons, I'm going to watch some Pistons games this year, right? I mean, obviously Killian Hayes is a huge draw. But yeah, the Detroit Pistons, I think Pump Take Sports Teams likes what they've put together this year.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm really into Killian Hayes. I'm excited to watch him play for sure. But yeah, and I see what you're saying about the centers for sure. I guess they can kind of figure it out later. But a guy like Jahlil Okafor, like, do you really need to know any more about him than we already do? Like,
no, you don't.
And they signed him to 2 years. They signed him to 2 years as well. Like, I just don't understand like moves like that. But I get like Mason Plumlee, a nice addition. Josh Jackson, they got him for the power forward too.
And Josh Jackson
so nice moves, yeah.
Yeah, Josh Jackson still is a young player too, right? Like Josh Jackson obviously hasn't shown that he's very good, but like young, and they're kind of going through the Detroit youth movement now. So you just kind of plug him in and see where he can fit in the offense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so the Detroit Pistons, keep an eye out for them this year because they could be very exciting. And thank you everyone for watching this short video about the Pistons because, they're Detroit, not many big things happening there, but exciting team. Killian Hayes is exciting, and I think it'll be a fun team to watch this year. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.